Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. In this video I will be discussing the main things that you need to know if you are a first-time viewer or it's been a while since you've seen Formula One, heading into the start of the 2025 season. The 2025 Formula One calendar, the new races and key challenges include the 24 race calendar year. This is the same as last year, but it is still the largest race calendar that the sport has seen. Now, one of the main noticeable differences this year is that the Australian Grand Prix will be the first race of the season. Now, this is the first time since 2019 that this has been the case. And it's really great to see that coming back. That's what it was like when I first started watching. So that race takes place on March 14th. And for us on the west coast of the US, that will be March 15th in the evening, about 9 p.m. The season will go all the way until December 5th, where the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will take place. And this has been the case for as long as I can remember. Since I started watching Formula One, at least, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was the final race of the year. In addition to the standard racing weekends, there will be 6 sprint races, and those will be China, Miami, Belgium, Austin, Brazil, and Qatar. And so for those of you who don't know what a sprint race is, those are an alternate weekend format where there is a short race before the main race on Sunday, and that race will take place instead of one of the qualifying sessions, which leads to a lot more intrigue for the fans and the viewers, but is, I imagine, quite a bit more stressful for the teams and drivers. Next up is the driver lineups this year, and this is one of the most interesting points of the new year. Going into last year, there was actually no changes, which I believe was the first time in history. Now, the lineups did change midway through the year. People were dropped and replaced, but the big change this year was Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari. And he has been a McLaren and Mercedes driver for his entire career. He's had a tremendous amount of success with them, and he's replacing Carlos Sainz at Ferrari and will be pairing with Charles Leclerc. So seeing if he will be able to continue his success at Ferrari is going to be just fascinating this season. Replacing Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes is Andrea Kimi Antonelli. He is, a lot of people think, kind of a prodigy. We will see. He'll be partnering George Russell, who's a fantastic driver as well. At Red Bull, there's another change. Max Verstappen will be partnering with Liam Lawson, who spent about half of the season in Red Bull's junior team. So he's been promoted this season to the full-time Red Bull seat. And he's replacing Sergio Perez, who's no longer in the sport. McLaren maintains the same driver lineup. They're one of only 2 teams to do so. They have Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. It's no surprise that they are maintaining this lineup. They were the constructing champion last year and are hoping to repeat that. Alpine has a change with Jack Doohan, who's a rookie, pairing with Pierre Gasly. At Haas, the only American team on the grid currently, they take Esteban Ocon from Alpine and pair him with Oliver Behrman, who is a junior Ferrari Academy driver rather. Sauber, which you will see on TV as Stake or Kick and will soon be called Audi next year, take Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Williams has Alex Albon, who's returning and is a great driver, paired with Carlos Sainz Jr., who Lewis Hamilton replaced at Ferrari. Racing Bulls, which was formerly known as Visa Cash App RB, has Yuki Tsunoda and rookie Isaac Hadjar. And then finally, Aston Martin is the second team to keep the exact same driver lineup with Lance Stroll, who is the son of the team owner, paired with veteran Fernando Alonso. Next, we'll jump into the new regulations for the new season. The regulation changes are quite minimal. So one of the largest is the removal of the extra point awarded for fastest lap. Now, last season, this had quite a bit of contention with people going for glory laps, even if they weren't in for a chance to win the race. And there was a lot of talk if that was fair. And so the FIA clearly decided that it was worthwhile to remove that feature from the point scoring system. So now a perfect weekend on a standard race weekend is 25 points as opposed to 26. Next, we'll jump into the Formula One car designs for 2025. Now, we just got a glimpse of everything at preseason testing, and at first glance, McLaren seems to be the favorite, but just as with prior years, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes are all highly competitive. In the midfield, kind of a second class of cars, are usually not in a chance to win the race, but are still pretty competitive. At first glance, after preseason testing, Williams actually seems to be pretty competitive. They had the fastest lap of testing, but you have to take that with a huge grain of salt. There have been some other teams that you would hope would have taken a larger step, notably being Sauber, but they look to be in pretty bad shape, and I hope that they can improve as the season starts. As far as championship contenders, McLaren are the repeat championship contenders, or hope to be at least, and they are, as I said in the previous bit, they look very competitive. They have a great driver lineup. The car looks to be doing well on long runs. It seems to be relatively fast, although it's not setting the world alight in testing with their lap times, but they will definitely be a team to watch out for in the first race in Australia. Ferrari, as mentioned with Lewis Hamilton, it'll be really interesting to see his performance in a new team and a new car. However, the package that they have brought looks to be quite competitive and definitely within a shout for winning the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull, they're bringing a great car again. It looks to be a little bit less competitive than in prior years where it absolutely dominated. However, it's never a smart decision to count Red Bull out, particularly with Max Verstappen behind the wheel, because he seems to always be able to get the most out of those cars. Mercedes, again, they look pretty competitive, although they have struggled in this rule set as compared to their previous domination. And it will be interesting to see how the rookie Kimi Antonelli performs. Formula One is a pressure cooker, and a lot of people who look really great in junior series come up, and they don't always set the world alight. And if Mercedes is fighting with a one-car team effectively with just George Russell performing, I don't know if they will be in a position to be fighting for the Constructors' Championship. Next, we'll jump into some rising stars, and so these might be young drivers who you want to keep an eye out for. They will predominantly be the rookies joining the grid. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Andrea Kimi Antonelli is joining Mercedes, which is a top team. He's likely to be in the best position of any of the rookies to score points, podiums, and maybe even a win. He has been touted as a generational talent. He got promoted in his first season of Formula 2, I believe. And yeah, it'll be really great to see how he performs this season. Oliver Behrman is a Ferrari Academy driver. He stood in for Carlos Sainz and one of the Haas drivers last season. Performed quite well. I think he did 3 races last season and was able to score points when he stood in for Carlos Sainz at Ferrari. So the fact that he's getting a chance at a full-time race seat is quite exciting. And then finally, Gabriel Bortoleto. He is coming into arguably the worst team on the grid, unfortunately. However, he has a tremendous amount of opportunity behind him and just pure talent. So he might be a little crash happy, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that he's one to watch out for, and he might be one of those drivers that gets overlooked in his first season or two, but then promoted into a better team, and then we'll really see how he performs. Finally, let's discuss the 2026 rules overhaul. Now, this is important for the 2025 season because all of the teams are going to be working in tandem, developing their 2025 car and their 2026 car. This usually happens, however, there's a much larger rules overhaul this season to next than there traditionally is. And it's going to be really interesting to see, particularly how the top teams focus their development and split it between the current season and next. And some of the big changes for 2026 are actually the engine, which teams have which engines, and Honda, who have been providing some of the best engines to Red Bull and their second team, are moving over to Aston Martin in an exclusive deal. And Aston Martin has been struggling, but they recently got Adrian Newey, who is an aerodynamics genius, and so they might be a force to be reckoned with in the 26 season. Red Bull is not replacing Honda with another powertrain on the grid. They're making their own, and they're partnering with Ford to do it. And so obviously Ford has a bunch of talented engineers who have won in many other series. So it'll be really interesting to see how that ground up engine development works. The other huge change for 26 is the addition of an 11th team. And so I believe it's been about 10 years since we've had an 11th team on the grid, and that new team will be Cadillac. Initially, they will be using Ferrari engines, but they'll move to their own engines in 2028 or so, when they have more time to get that developed. And with that, that's everything you need to know for the 2025 Formula One season. This is my first attempt at a YouTube video, so let me know your thoughts and comments, ways to improve. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed.